I was recently perusing the shelves of my local bookstore. I was on the hunt for a particular book on cooking, but as I passed the religion section, a few titles on the display caught my eye. I started to see all these books on biblical prophecy and the end of days. It's a popular genre in some versions of Christianity. People scour the Bible for texts that seem to predict something about the future, and then they get about the business of making connections to current events. I see this a lot on social media these days too. At the time of this recording, tensions have boiled over between Israelis and Palestinians, and the complicated situation has drawn commentary from people all over the world, but in particular, it's caused some Christians to begin drawing those connections once again between biblical prophecy and current events. And they're questioning, is this the beginning of the end? Is this the chaos that will truly inaugurate the apocalypse or the end of days or whatever your term of choice for the end is? I mean, is it? Maybe. The truth is, it's highly unlikely that we'd be able to predict it or know for sure. In fact, Jesus made it really clear to his disciples that they should ignore people who claim to know for sure about these kinds of things. Jesus told his disciples that many people will point to this or that and say, "See, this is it. This is the end." And actually, no one really knows when the end will be. There's no YouTuber or author or scientist or news outlet or pastor or person who knows. Plenty are going to claim it, but come on, nobody knows. And that kind of raises an interesting question. When the world gets chaotic, what should we think? What should we do? How should we make sense of it all? And how should we handle ourselves? First, let's talk about how to make sense of it. When things get chaotic, my natural inclination is to seek control. I need to find some way to keep my grip on reality, so I'm drawn to easy answers and explanations. Answers and explanations help us feel in control amidst chaos. Tension in the Middle East? It's simple. They should have or they shouldn't have, and here's what it means. Even claims that we're in the end of days can give a person a sense of control through knowledge. And since many Christians see the Bible as the answer book for life, the answer must be in there. Hence the onslaught of books, videos linking biblical passages and prophecies to today's current events. And look, I get it. It helps us feel in control when we think we know what's going on. But here's the thing, and you know this, we're not. I'm not in control. Daniel's Old Testament vision wasn't about the rise and fall of specific global superpowers that exist right now in the 21st century. It was about the empire of his own day and time. Jesus' predictions about the coming chaos and destruction weren't about us today. They were about the things his disciples were going to face in their lifetime, which they did, by the way. The temple was destroyed and a bunch of the disciples were martyred. And the book of Revelation is apocalyptic literature. It's a genre of writing designed to bolster and encourage people's faith. In particular, the people that John, the author of that book, was writing to. It's confusing to most of us because it wasn't written for us. It's a genre we don't really use anymore in the way we communicate with one another. But for the original audience, it was like a shot of adrenaline to their weary veins as they tried to hold on to their faith amidst a lot of chaos and persecution. I mean, can we learn from biblical prophecy and apocalyptic passages? Yes, and we can read it as a way to encourage our faith in practice. Can we use it to predict specific events like the end of the world? No, and I think we should be suspicious of anybody who says that they can. Okay, so what can we do then when things get chaotic? Well, we can't control the world, but we can control our character. As his ministry was wrapping up right before he was crucified, Jesus outlined for his disciples in great detail that they were going to go through seasons of chaos. It would feel like their world was ending. You can read the whole thing in Matthew chapter 24. But immediately after laying that all out, Jesus then explains how to coexist with the chaos. He does it by telling 3 stories that all have the same theme. The theme is how servants behave in their master's absence. The first story is often titled The Parable of the 10 Virgins. It's a confusing story about bridesmaids who are waiting for the groom to arrive the night before the wedding. It's confusing because it reflects practices that we don't really use in our culture today. But the parable essentially contrasts 2 types of people: those who were prepared to serve and paid attention for the opportunity, and those who were unprepared, and so they missed out. And they didn't just miss out on the opportunity, the story ends with them missing out on the wedding party altogether. The second story is called the parable of the talents. It's a story about a master giving his servants a bunch of money and then expecting that they would manage the money well in the master's absence. The story contrasts people who manage the resources well with people who don't manage them well. And then the third final story is called the sheep and the goats. It contrasts those who spent their life feeding the hungry, giving drinks to the thirsty, showing hospitality to the stranger, clothing the naked, and taking care of the sick, as well as visiting those who were in prison. The story contrasts people who did those things as though they were caring for Jesus himself, with people who paid no attention to those in need at all. Okay, so what's the point of all of this? Well, Jesus wanted his disciples to know that since no one will know when the end is coming, we're going to make your calling amidst all the chaos crystal clear. So here it is. Be prepared to serve. Pay attention for the opportunities. Manage your resources well. Why? So that you can be in a position to care for those in need as though you were caring for Jesus himself. And I'll tell you why this matters so much to me as a calling. I think chaos brings a lot of distraction, and we have so many distractions today. The truth is, the vast majority of us don't need to have a public opinion on current events, no matter how chaotic things get. We don't need public statements about who you stand with or against, and the world doesn't need my uninformed, uneducated, unnuanced perspective on a 6,000-year-old complicated dispute between two people groups on the other side of the world. And it certainly doesn't need half-baked predictions and prophecies claiming to be based on the Bible. Here's what I think the world does need from me, though. It needs me to be prepared to serve, to manage my resources well so that I'm ready to feed the hungry, show hospitality to people who aren't like me, and care for those who are in need, as though I was caring for Jesus himself. Put simply, the world needs me to discover who's in need, determine how to help, and then go do it. For me, as a Jesus follower, I believe that Jesus gave everything for humanity, that he gave up his very life for me to show me that God thought I was worth dying for. And since God's image isn't just in me, but it's in everyone, I think Jesus is inviting us to serve others as though we were serving God himself within them. Discover who's in need, determine how to help, and then go do it. So, in the midst of all the chaos in this world, what would that look like in your life? Is it about taking some time to visit someone with a disability whose mobility and social contacts get significantly cut off during the colder months? Is it about finding an organization that's doing some good work in the world that you could donate to? Is it going through your cupboards or your closets in order to collect food and clothing for your local shelter? Friends, if the world was ending in all of the chaos, regardless of what some Christian author or pastor or YouTuber says, it's not our job to figure out when it's ending, but to be found serving others. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.